Call the meeting to order and welcome to the 60th meeting of 7th Council Municipality of South Dundas. This is our first formal in chambers meeting, and I think we're all looking forward to operating that way. We've done all our best to be cautious, knowing the situation with COVID, and we will continue to do so. Much as this is not live streamed, we are taping it and putting it on our website tomorrow. And hopefully the next time we meet, we will be more technology here for live stream. Confirmation of the agenda. So we have added a couple things to discussion. H is discussion on the happenings at the lawn bowling that council needs to be aware of and make sure that they concur. And I is discussion on the current cannabis situation in South Dundas and where council wants to go to try to put some regulation into it. And Madam Clerk?
I'd like to add in camera, legal.
Okay. Anything else from any other members of council at this time? Seeing none, any disclosure of pecuniary interest, apparent nature thereof?
Yes, got with one last week, the special meeting.
Yeah, you can mention your...
Anyways, they declared conflict of interest because I was a contractor of the Iroquois campground.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, will adoption of the minutes, please?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that the minutes of the 57th regular and 58th special and in-camera meetings of the municipality of South Dundas be adopted as circulated.
Any questions or concerns on the minutes? Seeing none, all heard motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. No delegations, petitions tonight, so we'll move on to action requests. First one, E 2020-03, temporary exemption from the nuisance bylaw 2016-20.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas accept report DE 2020-03 to grant a temporary exemption request under bylaw number 2016-20, specifically general prohibitions by time, for an event to be held on October 10th, 2020.
Cole, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you are aware, nuisance bylaw 2016-20 provides exemption or temporary exemptions from the provisions of the bylaw, provided an application is submitted and approved through council. Property owner at 11716 County Road 2 is requesting temporary exemption to host a wedding on October 10th, and the prohibited time period between 11 p.m. one day to 7 p.m. the next day. They're requesting to be for the event to be held between 3 p.m. one day to 1 a.m. the next day.
Okay, this is pretty general. Any comments, questions, concerns from any members of council on this exemption? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is ABM 2020-01 and RFQ number ABM 20-28 photo collection for website update.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas accept report ADM 2020-01 to award the contract for a photo collection for the updated municipal website to Philip Blanchard Photography in the amount of $2,612.50 plus HST.
Kaylin, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report is for a photo collection that will be primarily used for an update to the website. We'll be able to use the photos though for a variety of other projects, communications, promotions, marketing. And the collection will give us a modern files to draw on and will replace a really outdated library. It streamlines the process of getting photos from all across the municipality while also working with a local professional. So we sent the invitation to a number of local photographers. 2 bids were received. by the due date, so Jordan Crops Photography for $17,730 and Philip Blanchard Photography for $2,612.50 plus HST. Staff recommend the contract be awarded to Philip Blanchard Photography and the funds be allocated from the administration operations budget. Happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. So do we have a catalog of all the photographers? Like, how did you determine who got the invite?
So just from who we knew, who were photographers from the area, we sent the invite out, and it was also advertised on our website, so that anyone that we might have missed could have gotten it.
Okay.
So we did our best to contact anyone that we knew.
Yeah, photography is one of those things that you have a lot of folks that take it up as a hobby, get really good at it, and then tend to develop their skills. So maybe for the next contract, maybe expand it a little bit more, because not everyone's on Facebook, right? Those are my comments. Thank you.
Any comments, Councilor Lewis?
No, no comments.
Councilor Allen?
No, I guess sort of to follow up on Deputy Mayor Gardner, I guess, it's too much of a headache, I guess, to ask for submissions from the general public, because you'd have too many coming in. But at that price, I'm good with it.
Councilor Wells?
I'm just wondering if Phil actually knows his whole scope of work there, because take like a $15,000 difference, that's a big difference. Just hopefully he didn't forget anything.
A lot of what the Toronto firm had been offering was mileage plus drone shooting, and they had a photography assistant that they were charging for, and so it was quite a big difference in terms of that. They had charged more if you were just to take the photos as is, but I think if we examined Phil's submission and he had broken it down in a way that made sense to us.
So you're happy with it then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. If there's nothing further, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now into the bylaws. First one is 2020-72, mandatory mask policy.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2020-72 being a bylaw to adopt policy 3-24, mandatory face covering policy, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Shannon?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is just a follow-up from our last council meeting where a draft policy was given to council. This is just to adopt it by bylaw and make it mandatory across all municipal facilities. So any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions, comments, concerns on this policy that we discussed at our last meeting? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is 2020-73, James Care Foundation.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2020-73 being a bylaw to execute an agreement with the Jays Care Foundation for the renovation of the infield at Earl Baker Park be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
James?
Mayor, Council.
Go ahead.
The Seaway Surge Baseball Club applied for the Jays Care Foundation back in October 2019 and presented to council the scope of work for the project on February 3rd, 2020, which proposed to be completed on the west field at Earl Baker Park. The application submitted outlined the upgrades needed at the diamond, which included the extension of the backstop, the completed perimeter fencing, protected dugouts, excavate and rebuild the infield with grass and clay, and irrigate the ball field. The cost before the grant and income was estimated at $128,561.06. The Seaway Surge Baseball Club received notification on July 20th from the Jays Care Foundation that they were successful in the application and awarded $44,785.40 towards the upgrades of the Morrisburg Waterfront Ball Diamond. As the property is owned by the municipality, the agreement and the funds will be managed by South Dundas, and staff in the Recreation Department will work closely with the Seaway Surge to ensure the funding is allocated to its intended use for the rehabilitation of the Earl Baker Park. The secondary application submitted to the Jays Care on January 31st, 2020 outlined the funding source to complete this project and referenced the municipality of South Dundas as providing $20,000, which has not been budgeted or discussed in detail. There was discussion after the presented by the club that if the application were successful, that council would discuss its contribution towards the project, either financial or in-kind. The club has provided its priority for the fall to rebuild the infield, extend the backstop height, and install dugout roofs, which is estimated to cost around $85,000. In the discussion with the club, they are prepared to obtain donations towards the project and look closely for a 2021 to access the municipal dollar-for-dollar capital program to complete the remaining project. The contribution towards the project for council to decide is whether they would like to do either financial or in-kind services. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Shannon's going to.
So if I can, this is just for the agreement thus far. So the comments regarding the contribution will be discussed under our KIR,
Right.
which we'll have later. So this is just the agreement bylaw only for the Jay's Care agreement. That's it at this time.
Okay, so it will have a little bit more to it in our
Correct.
key information report.
Correct.
Okay, it's a little backwards, in my opinion, where we're.
Right, the agreement's first part, and then we get down to the KIR, which is the.
Understood,
Yeah.
but we commit with this,
Correct,
Okay.
absolutely, yes.
fair enough. Yes,
Would you like to defer the bylaw until after the discussion?
yes, please. Okay, so we'll move it till after KIR. Yes, because it's, in my mind, it's,
Yeah, no, fair enough.
you know, we don't have enough information to make a decision on the bylaw, and not that we have already semi-committed. I think now the meat's got to be on the bone, and then there might be some further discussion on that. Okay, so I will put that aside. Thanks for now, and then we'll go to 20-74, committee bylaw update.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2020-74 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2019-04 be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
This is a fairly straightforward bylaw on adding information to the waterfront committee. Any comments, questions, concerns? Being none, all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-75, fees and charges amendment for the landfill.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2020-75 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2020-20 to establish fees and charges to be collected, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Danielle?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So we discussed this at the last council meeting in depth about the different charges for the landfill. So we discussed moving towards a user pay system, and we reviewed these fees. I incorporated in the comments that council did have at the time. The fees are attached to the bylaw that you can see in front of you, and this is just moving forward with it. I am asking council to defer the fee increase until October 1st. That way I can notify users. I'd like to send out a notice to all of our account holders, as well as put up some signs at the landfill to let individuals know that the fees will be increasing accordingly.
Okay, and the bylaw does state that it won't come into force until October 1st, so that's part of the bylaw. We've had this discussion before. Anything further discussion on this bylaw?
Well, I think we should,
Councilor Wells?
myself, I think, considering that's only 3 weeks away, that I think we should maybe extend it a little farther, because I don't think you're gonna reach out. Nothing, has anything been put in me to even to give them fair warning that it's coming?
So staff that are at the landfill have been letting people know that the fees are increasing. There was an article that was published by the Morrisburg Leader a couple weeks ago, and we did discuss this originally, and we have received some feedback. But we haven't put anything in the media because these rates weren't confirmed yet, so they haven't gone out.
Well, as long as everyone feels comfortable, come the first, that we're not gonna get people coming back on us saying we didn't have fair warning. If you were saying everyone's talking to everyone, like, everyone should be pretty much up to date then on, as far as I'm just more towards contractors, and because that's the biggest increase for them. But I think I'm good with the first thing, if used, Intel and our local contractors, so.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to add, there, tomorrow, if this is approved, there is a letter that is pre-made that will be going out to each of the contractors that do utilize the facility. So that's part of our communication plan.
Okay. Good.
Councilor Melvin, any comment?
Yeah, I was sort of along the lines of Councilor Wells, wondering if, the 1st of October, this is the, whatever, 8th or whatever today is, if that's enough time, but I guess if we market it aggressively enough, we get the word out there. There's going to be some coming up to the gate and all ticked off because they said they don't know about it, but wouldn't matter if it's October 1st or May 1st, so drive on with it.
Councilor Lewis?
No, I have no questions.
And Mayor Gardner?
No comment.
The only comment I would say I do it tomorrow, so, because we're going to have a big run the last week of September, just get your boots on it, so people will make it up. I think communication is good. The grace period is there, but we've communicated long and clear that this council needs to deal with landfills and make the dollars increase to offset some of the expenses. I didn't say make money, offset some of the expenses. So, there's nothing further. All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-76, soft and yield sign.
Moved by Councilor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2020-76 being a bylaw to provide for the erection of stop signs and yield right-of-way signs at intersections, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Yeah?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. So this is the second kick at it after revisiting it the first attempt. We've now narrowed it down to 4 intersections or 4 locations which do have a lack of signage. They have been identified below as Lyons Road at Park, Lyons Road at Kyle, and Campbell Street at Van Allen, and Lightning Street at Norgard. Each one of those locations is missing something, whether it's a yield sign or a stop sign, and I think by implementing this additional signage, it's going to better control the traffic in those 4 locations. I'll be more than willing to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Gardner, any comments, questions, concerns on this?
No.
Councilor Lewis?
No, no questions.
Councilor Mellon?
I guess my question would be, Jeff, I know when we did a lot of signs back, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, mostly in Matilda Township that had nothing on their intersections, there was erected for 2 or 3 months, new stop sign, new yield sign. Will that be going up with these 2?
Definitely. There's only one that, as if you're making reference to the stop sign, I do not have new stop and new yield sign ahead signs. Unfortunately, I'd have to order some, but I do have some new stop ahead signs in stock. So definitely at that one location at Campbell Street, we will be putting that signage up as well.
A new,
For new stop.
Yeah, I think, the light on the yield ones, it would be nice to have, the yield too, because, there hasn't been anything there ever. So, just to have the people know, because they'll just not see them. But definitely on the stop, where the new stop is, we need something, and preferably I would like to see the, new yield ahead sign. If we have them, you're not thinking we need them, or?
Oh, I definitely need them, we just don't have them. So I'll have to order.
You'll have to order them before these go in?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to do it. Okay, no, that's good, as long as I think that's, other than that, Mayor Bylaws, I'm,
Councilor Wells?
I have no question, I'm just glad to see the one going up at Lightning and Norgard, because it's been a thorn in my side, so good to go.
Okay, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. 2020-77, landfill capping debenture.
Moved by Councilor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2020-77 being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing upon amortizing debentures in the principal amount of $1,818,690.57 towards the cost of the Williamsburg landfill capping be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Sarah?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this bylaw is the final step for Council to proceed with the loan from Infrastructure Ontario. As previously decided by Council, the loan is for 15 years with payments totaling just over $138,000 per year. The interest rate for the loan has been locked in at 1.76%, and the closing date for the loan is September 15th. I can answer any questions Council may have.
Any comments, questions, concerns on this? I know it's a lot of money, but we've already decided to do what we had to do. The interest rate is extremely favorable, so,
Have we ever had an interest rate that low before?
no.
Drive on.
All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-78, Henderson Branch of the Devlin Municipal Drain.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2020-78 being a bylaw to assess the maintenance costs of the Henderson branch of the Devlin Municipal Drain be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Henderson branch was maintained in 2018. The accumulated maintenance cost totaled $14,646.01. The agricultural drainage infrastructure grant was applied for and received in the amount of $4,669.28. The net amount to be assessed to the watershed is $9,976.73.
Any comments, questions, concerns for any member of council on this drainage bill? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-79, Branch A of the Devlin Municipal Drain.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2020-79 being a bylaw to assess the maintenance costs of Branch A of Devlin Municipal Drain be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Sean?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Branch A of the Devlin Drain maintenance was completed in 2013. The total accumulated maintenance costs were $6,781.49. The agricultural drainage infrastructure grant of $172.92 was applied for and received, leaving a net amount to be billed out in the amount of $6,608.57. And as with the other bylaws as well, this will be due on the 30th of November.
Any comments, questions, concerns from council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-80, the empty municipal drain.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2020-80 being a bylaw to assess the maintenance costs of the empty municipal drain be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The maintenance on the empty municipal drain was completed in 2015. The accumulated maintenance costs were $3,243.59. An agricultural drainage infrastructure grant of $1,041.51 was applied for and received. That would leave the net amount to be assessed to the property in the watershed at $2,202.08. And there were 8 properties with assessment amounts less than $10, which will not be billed out, totaling $18.41.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns on this one? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Mellon, that all items listed on the general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented.
This evening, we have a letter from Municipal Affairs and Housing. We also have a letter from Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Rural Affairs, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, petitions from the City of Port Colborne, Municipality of West Gray, information concerning the construction notice on County Road 31 and the 401 westbound access to ramps, which are now closed. Minutes from the South Dundas Economic Advisory Committee, Tourism Committee twice, We have a key information report concerning the Emerald Ash Borer plan for South Dundas. Airport outdoor rink building design update, South Dundas Awards of Excellence. SNC community grant application, the total landfill design and operations report, and monthly activity reports on correcting facilities, economic development, water, wastewater, transportation, environmental services, building, planning, fire emergency services, finance, and CAO. All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Boards and committees and discussion items. Were there any committees that any member of council went to and needs to report on? Deputy Mayor Gardner?
Did we report on counties already, Mr. Mayor?
No.
No? Okay, you want me to start with counties?
If you could remember that. 'Cause
I can.
good for you, because we don't get our little thing. Maybe that's
I
something we need
don't know
to,
what's going on.
we need to discuss that with, at county council.
Well-
We have now a communications guru there.
So at counties, we had Dr. Paul present. We also had the Upper Canada District School Board present of their return to school plans. Of course, everything's so fluid. But I don't know if most people have noticed that Dr. Paul is now breaking down the COVID cases by municipalities, so that's kind of handy. We talked about that half-ton pickup tender, and that was it. It was a pretty quick meeting.
And the school board there too.
Yeah, the school board, their return to school plans, so.
Yeah. That was good. It wasn't a long or tedious meeting, that's for sure. I think Dr. Paul being there and actually had good news, because the province is now paying their full 80% instead of cutting it back, so we're not paying any extra, which helps the counties and us. And then the school board, there were many questions on their back to school plan and everything else, so we'll see how it all goes. Any other questions on that from any member of council? Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead, we'll just do you, and
Okay.
if there's more, then we'll just go around and do
All
it.
right, I'll try to start. So the Tourism Advisory Committee met August 18th. That group was very adamant that we move quite quickly on a few things. So our last council meeting, we had talked about these masks that are being distributed to the local businesses and tourism operators. I still have some to give out, and as are some of the other committee members. We have the signs that I think everyone has seen. They are up, and we also have a Facebook tourism group now. It's municipal, connected to the municipal Facebook page, but it's had some pretty nice discussion and some pretty nice highlighting of businesses and tourism locations in South Dundas. And we also had a meeting with the St. Lawrence Parks Commission to discuss future partnerships with some of their event branding and timelines associated with items like the planning for Pumpkin Inferno and the planning for Light at Night. So that was actually a really good meeting. Rob Hunter was there, as was our chair, and then I was there as well. And out of that came, we increased our display this year at Pumpkin Inferno for South Dundas. And we're in talks to have a rendering done for South Dundas. So we're talking, we're working together, which is fabulous. So that was good. So that's the Tourism Advisory Committee. The Economic Development Committee met August 28th. Most of our discussion was about rejigging the awards ceremony, if you will, that we had last year with the Mayor and Council breakfast. And we had some conversation. The awards package is ready and will be released. I'll have to look up the date, but it'll be released shortly for people to submit. So we've streamlined it this year, so I would encourage everyone to have a look and see if there are people or businesses they'd like to nominate in each of the categories. The form last year was a little bit cumbersome. This year it's been streamlined, so we're hoping that we get more participation with that. The Doctor Recruitment Committee September 1st, actually, Donnie and I had the opportunity to meet with with Gwen Devereaux, who is the person that South Dundas and South Stormont have partnered in hiring. She is the doctor recruitment specialist who had such a huge impact on Godrich and was able to recruit 18 doctors to that small town. So we went through the interview process. It was quite interesting, her questions, and she's reaching out to everybody and getting kind of a full view of what we need. So that's kind of interesting. And then the waterfront committee, the Morrisburg Waterfront Committee, sorry, met August 19th. And we went over some things, and then that was followed by a meeting where I invited the chair and also Rob Hunter to come and sit at the table and have a discussion about their top 3 projects and looking for funding opportunities, so we can check some of those off the list. That's it.
Anything, Councilor Lewis? Councilor Mellon?
Yeah.
You have a full agenda from this and see we go through tonight?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You're live, I'm here live, August 20th, South Nation was the last South Nation meeting. Basically, they had a PowerPoint in June and July. The conservation areas are at an all-time high, probably 2 to 3 times above average for other years. Fundraising activities, there's going to be an online art auction raffle, I guess, as a support South Nation Conservation Tree Planting Program. And they have pictures and sketches and whatnot donated by local artists. They've lost out on a lot of their fundraising activities or golf tournament and whatnot this year, so this is one way they're hoping to raise some money for that. I asked them if they had reached out to different local artists, and I guess they had. I don't know if, hopefully we have some talented people in South Dundas. I don't know if they were contacted, but it'll be in October of this year, that online activity for the raffle. South Nation, they had a presentation, South Nation Conservation and Department of Fishing and Oceanage collaborated on shoreline erosion projects and reviews. They did, and the DFO, I think, got a look at what the local conservation authorities can provide in that expertise at the local level. So it was very, I think it was very well taken by DFO to see what they can provide at the local level. There's been some hand wicking of invasive species at the Robert Graham in South Dundas Conservation Authority, and a couple other ones, but they did some at the Robert Graham. The Finch office has not been open to the walk-in public yet, but call or email to arrange appointments if one needed with staff. They have, it's been a record high permitting and etc. Year so far, and along with complaints, everything seems to be at a record level. They did a natural hazard planning and a preliminary erosion hazard on the Ottawa, Clarence, and the St. Lawrence River, and that report will be coming in. We approved the allocation of $25,000, which was money that we was budgeted for, to be moved over to the Hazard Land Acquisition Reserve for the landslide area down at Castle and Lelouge. So if the money was there, but it was sort of sitting in the general ledger, so the idea was to have a reserve, start to build up for that, if that ever comes up, that we can, if land would be down there, would be bought. County planning study update. SPG and United Counties, Prescott, Russell, and South Nation, they entered into a 3-way agreement a while back to complete a natural feature study to update local official plan. It's probably the only one in the province, and it's unique in that 3-way partnership. The planners met with South Nation staff to review the policy update. Public consultation platform will be hosted online, including it'll include engagement sessions, surveys, and map portals. They're planning on that for the fall of 2020 because it does affect any landowners that may be directly affected in this. So there will be there will be an opportunity for the public to review this, and county planners have already looked at it. The next meeting is September 17th, and it'll be the first live meeting we've had since COVA has. It'll be just limited to the directors and probably 2 or 3 staff. So I don't think they'll be able to accommodate the public. It'll be live streamed, and it'll be sort of to finish up the AGM, which we've already done online as far as the audit and whatnot has already been done. So the election of the chair, vice chair, and past chair will be done at that that meeting on September 17th. October 15th meeting will be the presentation of the proposed levy. And the November 19th meeting will be the first draft of the budget. So no indications yet, but I have indicated once or twice to, and they have been watching the spending and been somewhat like staff here, seeing where their costs are going and whatnot. So hopefully it will affect the levy. That's about it, Mayor. Might else or highlight some of the other things. We did approve to buy a new SUV crossover vehicle to replace a vehicle that had 200-some thousand for an upset limit of 30,000, I think it was. So hopefully they can get one for 30,000, what they're looking at. But they use the fleet program too. So that's about it. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you for your thorough report. It was good. Councilor Wells, any meetings you went to?
No.
I didn't do any either, so. Moving on, key information report 2020-2021 COVID-19 Westwood Arena Operations Plan. Danielle?
Thank you, Mayor. So in front of you this evening is a report just going over the items for the Morrisburg Arena Operations Plan with COVID-19. We did have to come up with something that addressed the user groups and how they would utilize the facility while protecting themselves and their users from COVID-19. So this plan, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but some of the highlights are the arena safety measures that we're looking at implementing, rules and regulations that user groups will have to follow, arena operations, how we'll operate the arena with staff and whatnot, self-assessment information that each user group will have to use, as well as staff screening procedures, so how we will be screening our own staff. We have some posters in there. We have an arena cleaning program that's in there as well. A COVID-19 waiver that all user groups will need to fill out for insurance purposes, a contact tracing log, which is required by the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, and a user group checklist that we will be providing to the user groups to fill out. Another item that is in the report that we're looking for a little bit of direction on this evening is the cleaning wand. So I'm not sure what page it is in your agenda, but there is a Clorox 360 total disinfectant wand that we are looking for some direction on whether council would like to proceed with purchasing one for the arena and one for facilities. They clean 18,000 square feet an hour, so it would be ideal for the Morrisburg Arena to keep user groups moving in and out quite quickly and disinfecting in between. They're about $7,000 each. So we will be bringing a report back once we go through our procurement process, but we just wanted to see if that's something that council was interested in. A community that is using it right now is the City of Cornwall. They're using it to disinfect their Benson Center. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay. Ask the treasurer for funding for that. We could use our COVID-19 funding from the province.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Wells, comments, questions, concerns?
I have no questions.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, I read the report, very good report, and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here on this one, and I think most of the other rinks are doing that. I've had some individuals, concerned about, coming to the drink, especially old timers, coming to the rink, already dressed, but I think that's coming to the realization that's probably what's going to happen. I know they were asking for some leeway with, especially with the goalies, they can't come fully dressed, with your leg pads and elbow pad, or elbow pads, your belly pad and arm pad, especially if they're going to drive. So there was some concern there, but I think mostly they're going to be able to get around that. how much time in between the ice time allocations are there? Like, you can't have like a 6 o'clock ice time, a 7 o'clock ice time, because there's gonna be too many overlaps. If your numbers are 50 on the ice, 50 in the stands, and 30 in the lobby. If you have two teams playing with 20 kids on a team, you're gonna have, 22, 23 with the coaches and whatnot. The ice is gonna be full, and I'm thinking there's gonna be, people coming in if there isn't enough gap there. How much gap do you have?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, this plan outlines that. So what would happen is you're only allowed to come in for your ice time 10 minutes prior to your session beginning. So there will be time between each ice event. So we're looking at spacing them out about a half an hour each, so we can disinfect and then have a new user group come in to use the facilities. And then as soon as you're done your ice time, you only have 10 minutes to take off all your gear and exit the facility.
Okay.
We'll have to be very careful with that, but that's what we're proposing right now is that time amount.
Yeah, because you're gonna have that half hour in there to clear people out and get new people in. The non-contact sports, you mentioned in there that non-contact sports would not be like the midgets and the bantams, and like, what's gonna happen to them? I mean, if there's not gonna be non-contact, is that gonna be right across the league for non-contact sports and midgets and bantams? And I don't know how low they go. Do they go to Pee Wee, Johnny, or no?
Yeah.
That'll be.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that wasn't something that South Dundas is preaching. It's not coming from us, the no contact. That's coming from the Eastern Ontario Health Unit.
That's coming from the league then.
That's right. So we're not telling them that they can't have contact. It's just part of the regulation for COVID right now. That may change if a direction comes from the Eastern Ontario Health Unit that says something else, but we're just following that right now.
And you don't understand non-contact to me. Anyways, that's the league direction, fine. I guess in your report you said you were going to clean the lobby and washrooms after each user group is done. And then late farther on, it said the washrooms would be cleaned twice a day up in the lobby. You're going to have to clean the washrooms in the lobby after each ice time allotment?
So no, through you, Mr. Mayor, the washrooms in the lobby would be separate because the washrooms in the lobby would be part of what we're calling the canteen area, which is separate from the arena users. So when we say we're going to continuously clean the washrooms between user groups, because the washrooms are attached to the change rooms, that's what we're talking about in that specific section. And then the washrooms in the lobby will be cleaned at least twice a day because that's the health unit's direction on that.
The way I read the report, I thought you meant the washrooms in the lobby would be changed, cleaned after every user group. It is what it is. We'll, I guess, do we have enough staff to do this?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, currently with this plan, we do believe that we have enough staff. We do also have, we call them rink attendants, like seasonal rink attendants that come in. They are students. So we believe with their assistance that we would be able to accomplish this plan.
Right, I think, okay, we have some money allocated if we needed to tap into it from start up the COVID-19 thing, I don't know. I'm just worried that we're not gonna have enough staff to be able to do all the washroom cleanings but we'll see. Maybe with the half-hour gap in there, it may work. Good luck, that's what all I can say. It's gonna be fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
Councilor.
Very thorough documentation. Now, the way I read this, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are only going to use 4 of the 6 dressing rooms. The dressing rooms upstairs are off limit.
Yes, that's correct.
I think that's a very smart play. No, I'm very happy with that report. It was good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Thanks, Mayor Byveld. Just a couple of quick questions. If we have a team that does not provide the proper information or the proper documentation, if you will, for the contact tracing, will there be some sort of penalty? Is there a way to kind of enforce this if the users do not do what they need to do to, I'm thinking specifically around the contact tracing.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, what I would suggest, and we're not here to enforce anything, so we would have to speak to the Eastern Ontario Health Unit to look to them to see how they'd like to deal with that. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, those contact tracing logs actually go to them. They don't stay with us. We do keep a copy. It's something that we are working into our arena agreement. So every year, a user group would sign an arena agreement where they sign for their hours, how many they're using, and their fees. And all of this would be included in that package. Our hope is to include this package as well as the waiver, so that they're aware that they have to do it. We're approaching it in a way that we think that most user groups are on board and able to do it. We have had to change the contact tracing log a little bit for each different user group. We have some user groups who have submitted an alternative plan to contact tracing, which we do believe will work well. So we are open to changing things if needed to make sure everybody can utilize the ISO.
I think it's like everything else, especially with COVID-19, it only takes one, and then there's going to be a problem. And my other question was around the cleaning machine, the $7,000 one. Are two enough? Like, if this progresses and this is something that we need to do, maybe, you know, I mean, maybe we should always be doing it, I don't know, once COVID is gone. Would two of those machines, do they serve our purpose? Or I'm just thinking with the extra funding from the province, it may be time, like, we should make sure that we, you know, are two machines enough?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I would say that we'd like to start with the two, certainly. They are in limited supply as well, so it's really difficult to get them to begin with. So we are hoping that we will receive two for us to utilize. The Benson Center, for your reference, only utilizes one, and it's significantly larger than our Morrisburg Arena, and they seem to be getting by quite well with it. The secondary unit would not be used for our Morrisburg Arena, it would be used for our larger facilities.
Yep.
We feel with being able to do 18,000 square feet in an hour, that should satisfy our needs. But if that changes, we would certainly come back and request that from council.
Perfect, thank you.
And I've read through the plan, you actually sent me the draft, and it's very well done. I think it's very specific, it needs to be specific in this day and age of COVID, and make sure that those who want to use our facilities do it right. And I do agree that, you know, we need to use those COVID funds to buy disinfecting units. I know they're probably at a premium because that's just the way the marketplace works right now, supply and demand, but from a user point of view, it just makes common sense to do that, or else it would just take too much time. Question I do have, maybe just some clarity. I believe you talked to the Lions group concerning the canteen, and they're comfortable with the situation. That's probably going to be relatively limited, and they will be dealing with the lobby and keeping it clean and doing all the work they need to do to I guess, run a restaurant.
Yeah, so we have had a preliminary discussion with the Lions Club in operating their canteen. So we've gone over some of the things, we've gone over this specific operations with them, and we've discussed how they will operate. So they actually have to have a health unit inspection prior to them opening, regardless of the COVID-19 situation. So we're hoping that when they do that inspection, Eastern Ontario Health Unit will provide them with a little bit more information as to what they can and can't do, at the same time as providing us with a little bit more information. They seem pretty comfortable. We'll be getting them some plexiglass, and we'll be installing that at the arena to protect the canteen workers from the public. And it'll be similar to a restaurant, so you won't be able to stand and have a coffee next to somebody else. You will have to sit at a specific seat, and that will be where you'll have to enjoy your canteen treat. So we have talked to Linda quite a bit about it, so we're hoping that once the Eastern Ontario Health Unit gets back to us, we can take the next steps towards that.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think you got to be reasonable, but they also have to understand the situation we're into. So, anything further from any members of council at this time? Okay. All council's good with spending it on 2 units at this time. We do have the COVID funding that the province gave us. I know it's a lot of money, but if we don't spend it, it's going back. That's the way it has. This is not money we can spend on roads. You know.
How,
Yeah, and the treasurer is fully responsible. She had to sign it on the dotted line. Yeah.
Yeah, how long would it take to get, like, if we get into this and realize that, you know, 2 isn't enough, can we get one in short notice, like, you know?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't had those preliminary discussions yet with those groups. So we have a supplier right now that is supplying them. I can't speak to how long the period is. I don't know if that will change as more arenas open, as their product becomes more popular. We're probably looking at 6 weeks is my guess, but everything seems to be delayed from COVID, so I can't quite answer that question, but I can certainly get back to you on how long it will take.
I believe with 2 units, we have basically our main unit and the backup unit, and worst comes to worst, we can probably put 2 there and do without somewhere else. We'll make it portable. Make it work for now. Just like any other operation, you do it, your business or farm, you make it work, and if the second, third one is needed, then you'll figure it out pretty
Hate to
quickly.
buy them, not need.
And those units there, like, they're paying $7,000 for them, like, it's you can make that yourself for what they have in that machine. Anyways, 2 it is, I guess.
Okay, thank you. You have one, do you need one? Okay, then you go ahead, scribe her out. Do you want to move on to the next one, or do you want us to wait?
You can move on with these ones.
Okay, so, we do have a motion coming back for the sanitizers, draft ATV bylaw discussion. Nicole?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before you have the draft ATV bylaws. So our original bylaw was in 2005, and the most recent version includes the ministry's definitions of alternate ATV vehicles. So side-by-sides, extreme terrain vehicles, off-road motorcycles, for instance, dirt bikes and such. All of the other provisions remain the same, including the times allotted and the locations of where they're permitted to be driven. I can answer any questions if you have.
Okay, so Council Wells, you've probably got a lot of experience with this.
I went through it, I have no issues with it.
Council Mount?
Yeah, I mean, I can see this in any of all our towns and hamlets and villages. I'm not so sure, and I don't live in the country. You know, there's lots of cars, and my diesel truck makes more noise maybe than some off-road vehicles. If their mufflers are the way they shouldn't be that loud. I mean, you get some hot dog out there, yeah. But so I can live with, I guess, you know, from the hours that are in question. I guess you had mentioned here the off-road vehicle on municipal roads, all roads north of Kings Highway, Flag Road, Muttonville, and Nuttall. What about like out in Iroquois on the Broken Second coming, like that's not in the town, but it's also south of the 401. I don't know if that needs to be clarified, you know, on that road, because it's not in the town, it's south of the 401, and we're saying only roads north of the 401 are these vehicles are, you know, off-road vehicles are allowed. I don't know if anybody's got any comment on that one, you know, up in there, like, I don't think that's sort of, because there's really no other roads that are maybe affected too much, but I know that's, you know. I would, but I can live with the time frame because you can't segregate, I guess, or, you know, separate the two between, especially some of our smaller hamlets and villages with, you know, alternate, four-wheelers and dirt bikes going through at all hours of the night. So I guess, you know, if you're not done ripping up mud by 10 or 11, you should go home anyway, so. But now, other than the broken second, I don't know if that should be included as a road that it can be used, because right now, the way it's reading, it's south of the 401, so.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We haven't had any complaints on broken second regarding the four-wheelers or ATV vehicles. I would agree with you that we should add that to the schedule. I don't think it's ever been brought up, but we're looking at a 15-year time difference between the two bylaws, so we can definitely add that to Schedule A for the location. It would be similar to Muttonville Road, south of the 401, but it's still a rural area.
Yeah. Be my only comment on that, on the road, I don't know.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I do agree with Councillor Mellon on that. That should be added. But I think everything else looks like it's in place, and I have no questions.
Mayor Gardner?
No, I think that's a good addition. I am shocked though sometimes the amount of dirt bikes that are driving around Morrisburg. I was at the waterfront around 4 o'clock on Sunday, and yeah, it's not really the right place for them. Saying.
Well, it's good to update this, you know, the side-by-sides weren't around in 2005. And some of them are quite the machines. They can go from 0 to wherever they're gonna go in a hurry, and they are certainly on a noisier side too, so good to make sure the schedule's there. It's gonna be challenging to enforce, because I know there's a lot of people that use four-wheelers on this side of 401, and we'll see how it goes. Other than that, I'm good with broken second from County Road 2 to County Road. I guess it technically ends when it hits Edisburg Cardinal. Are we going to include then Marine Station Road? Okay, so it'll be those two roads. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, that's done. You have a motion ready for the arena.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas authorize the purchase of 2 Clorox 360 total disinfection wands with a maximum amount of $15,000 and use the provincial COVID funding for the purchase.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll hear a motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're good. Act 2. Call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Recently, we've received complaints regarding our nuisance bylaw and with respect to excessive noise. And the prohibited times only covered after 11 p.m. and until 7 a.m. in the morning. So we've had complaints about excessive noise during the day and how we enforce that. In 2015, 2016, our bylaw was drafted with all of the United Municipalities in SDNG. With the exception of one, we've all adopted the same bylaw, and just kind of to keep consistency across the board, I guess. And we're just bringing forward a discussion on how council wishes us to enforce the excessive noise during the day, and if there's a need for a change in the bylaw.
Okay, Mayor Gardner.
Okay, so I've had some conversation with some of our residents about this. I was shocked to find out that the Ontario Provincial Police were not willing to, upon return visits, potentially make a mischief charge. So I know that there's only so much we can do. And it is mischief if you're intentionally disturbing those around you whenever it's of no benefit to you to just be playing loud music or what have you. So I don't, in your opinion, Nicole, is it working? Our current bylaw, you have to work with it, is it working? It doesn't seem to be.
Our current bylaw is working, it's working through those prohibited times.
Yep.
But during the day, if we have troublesome properties that are causing issues with other neighboring properties. There's no way for us to enforce it, so we rely on the OPP to do basically a disturbance of the peace. But from what we're hearing is that's relayed back to the municipality for additional enforcement, but we have no avenue to enforce.
So, Mr. Mayor, the other thing I find problematic is any of these bylaws, especially with something like a disturbance like that, it's advantageous for your officers to actually witness instead of having to do the he said, she said the day after. I don't really know of any bylaw officers that work nights. So I'm just, I think it either grants a conversation with the OPP, of which I'm a strong supporter of police officers, but in this particular case, it's getting a little ridiculous, the back and forth. I think potentially we need to have a conversation and nail down what the expectations are, because we don't have officers that work at night, and it seems a little ridiculous to try to enforce something whenever our officers can't be witness to it. And during the day, that's a little ridiculous as well. I visited the noise site, and if it was my neighbor, I'd be a little bit annoyed. So.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I've most likely had the same talk with the same people, either one way or the other. Is there a way that we could put a clause in our bylaw that would state if certain, for instance, music, if it's at a certain stage on the stereo of loudness, that we can correct the problem?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the bylaw doesn't exactly define excessive noise. OH&S, so the Ontario Health and Safety Act, does define construction noise, so where it's disturbing your hearing at 85 decibels, so we would need a decimeter, but that's a possibility to define our excessive noise in the bylaw itself. Currently, it's just a judgment, and typically our complaints come in after the fact, so we aren't able to witness the volume of the noise itself.
Because I did take a drive to that place, and whoa, I most likely would be a little upset with my neighbor also. That's the only question I have there. Thank you.
Councilor Long?
No, I don't know, like, it's a hard one, because unless we can enforce, if somebody is making, a lot of noise, disturbance, whatnot through the day that, is outside of our hours where it is prohibited, it's hard to enforce, and if the police aren't going to respond to it, or can't, or, other than putting something in there about, Councilor Lewis has mentioned, some way of, reading the decibel level. But it opens up a can of worms, and I'm not sure how we get around that one. I think it's clear enough from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. except on Sundays, but it's noise who gets through the day that are disturbing, nothing, no further comment at this time, Mayor Bielsa.
Councilor Wells?
Well, with all the parties that mentioned right now, like this bylaw, there's nothing wrong with it. 11 to 7 p.m. is great. What's going on back there, it's just going to get worse because one's just itching the other. It should go back to old school, between neighbors. You got a problem, go over and take care of it. Because at the end of the day, that's not going to stop, and I don't know how you're going to enforce that. You can't. The police should actually come up and do their job. It's disturbing the peace. It's up to them. It's not up to the municipality to go there and look at, well, you got the radio too loud, and you got that, and you're yelling at me. It's just, it's something they gotta work out as far as I'm concerned. And I would just leave it at that, because those two parties I mentioned is not gonna change. Like, I knew them all my life, both of them, so it's, other than that, I don't think there's any other substantial complaints, right, going on. So if we're dealing with two people, then this bylaw is good, let them work it out and not call the cops, and we can talk to our Ivan and see what he can reach out and help us, because I think we're doing our job by this bylaw, so that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Any further?
Well, I just, I don't profess to be an expert, but you do have people that have the right to enjoy their property, and if one of those properties in that, in any radius of that property was sold to a young family or something like that, it would be a problem. And I agree with Councillor Wells, not so much the old school stuff, but definitely the police dealing with it. It is a criminal, there's some criminal elements to it, infringing on a person's right to enjoy their property. I think the problem is, though, is the residents are put in this back and forth game whenever they have a problem that deals with our bylaw and then the OPP, who's the legal authority that supersedes our bylaw officers. And I think I'd hate if I have a situation where I'm going to come to the municipality and you're going to say it's the OPP that deals with it, and then I go to the OPP and the OPP says it's the municipality. It's not solving a problem, and I think we're in the business of trying to at least solve problems, so I would strongly like to see a conversation with the inspector for this area, and have a conversation, because this is ridiculous, because it will become their problem, and maybe some violence will occur, somebody will get hurt. Not particularly that situation, but maybe another situation. So I think it's highlighting that there needs to be a discussion about exactly where the Ontario Provincial Police stand as far as enforcing some things that they have in the past.
Okay, well, it does sound like we need to have that conversation with OPP to figure out who does what and what they'll do. The only hole I see in this is the definition of noise and the challenge that if you had to take that to court, the best way of dealing with that is a metered dB meter to tell you the level at a certain spot. I certainly is a challenging situation with the two neighbors at it, and one is just egging one on, as Councilor Wells says, and we need to figure out if the OPP is going to do it, and if they don't, and what their basis of not doing it. Yeah. And if it's not, then we may have to come and define noise a little bit better and be prepared to defend that noise level, because if there's a constant music beside you or anybody else, after a while it will wear on you. And there are people that do shift work and end up not be able to sleep. I'm not saying that this is the situation in this regard, but it could happen. I'm actually, I look at it a little bit like a senior now and think that 11 o'clock's a little late for no, I should start at 10, but I think I'm not going to win that one again. But noise does carry. Like, I'm surprised. Like, my neighbor's far enough away and there's a hedge in between, but if they're having like music and conversation at night, it carries. Like, it sounds like it's in your room and you're far enough away it shouldn't be. And I don't consider that a nuisance, but what I'm hearing of in the village of Williamsburg, that is a nuisance. So let's see if we can figure this out a little bit better, and if worse comes to worse, we'll have to look at this again and tighten it up and land up doing it ourselves, because it can't be ridiculous. I know it's a challenge, but go ahead, Councilor.
I just want to add one more comment there. I was talking to a local business that is very close to the problem, and he's never had a problem. So I'm just saying, we can say, she said, he said, but at the end of the day, you got two different, one saying one thing, one saying the other, so we better make sure before we start slapping people's fingers, what we say. Make sure we're slapping for the reason, right reason.
Okay, well, you will end up, if you can define it, then you can deal with it. If it's not fully defined, then you're gonna be challenged, and that's just simple legal, yes.
Yeah, and I would add, you wouldn't build a bylaw based on one individual situation. It's just that any situation where there's not an answer, then we need to define it. We need to know who the proper authority is, and this is just an example of that.
Okay, so we'll have to go further OVP, and worst comes to worst, we'll go to police service board and rattle some chains up there. Okay, Kristen Ball Diamond discussion. So this is more a council discussion. You have a letter in your council package today, which is a letter that I received, and Deputy Mayor Gardner received a while back. Just trying to spread my way down to it. From the Matilda rec group. And as council knows, we approved and worked with in this recreation for installed ball diamond lights. As you can see that we as a when all the accounting was done, they still owed us $4,738.29, and that is actually to us for the work we did. So we did put $25,000 into this project from our 50/50 project money. However, they do bring some good concerns that they're not having any regular fundraising events. So does the math in this work and it makes sense from your point of view, Madam Treasurer?
Yes, so I guess I can give council a little history on this too. So they applied through our 50/50 program back in 2019 budget process. And at that time, they did provide evidence to support that they had $10,000 to contribute towards this project. So the project didn't get complete till 2020, but as with any other municipal capital project, where we use our staff time and equipment to complete a portion of the work, we allocate the cost. So in this situation, our Public Works Department completed some excavation and trenching for it. We're going to be applying a similar treatment for the Morrisburg Waterfront Committee, because we did complete significant work for the waterfront parking lot there. So I guess we're just looking for council direction as to whether we want to donate the labor and equipment costs towards this, as well as the $25,000.
So in their initial application, they claimed they had $10,000 to put into the project. Okay. We'll start here, Councilor Wells.
Okay, so they said they had $10,000, and then they didn't have it there, like when it came time, or?
No, we just...
Or they don't want to use the $47.38 to pay us back?
they don't want to pay the $3,500 worth of labor and equipment.
So this is over and above the $25,000 or the 50/50?
Yes, so the total cost of the project was just under $57,000. So $27,000 came from the South Branch Community Fund, $25,000 from us, and then the balance came from the committee.
Being the 3568?
47.
Or 47?
Yeah.
I don't think we can use this as the same thing towards, I know it came out in the budget, whatever, the 25,000, but I guess it's the same as the Morrisburg Waterfront. They were allotted so much, they had 85,000 sitting there, and we did in-house work, so someone's got to pay for it at the end of the day. There's a lot of history behind those lights to start with, which we all know, but if we can't say no to them, like, we can't play favorites, so if we're gonna charge Morrisburg, but I don't know. I'll save my comments, stay until I hear what other people have to say.
Okay, Councilor Collins.
Well, I'm just confused as to the fact that, you know, where they got to the idea that, do we not talk about this part of the process being donated? Was there ever a discussion with them or on the donating the 3568 or in-kind donation? Was there any ever, did they ever approach us at all about doing that for in-kind?
Go ahead.
The only conversation we had was that they were going to take care of the project themselves, and then it came back to us from the HST component of it. So they stayed on the HST because it went through us, but they were to manage that project fully, with the municipality getting $25,000.
So they never asked for in-kind. A little bit of a soft spot back there for that 3568. But you know, Councilor Wells is right. I mean, if we didn't do it for Morrisburg, you know, in kind, we charge back for the Morrisburg waterfront. You know, it opens up a can of worms. The next thing you know, everybody's asking for in kind, and as much as it's not very pleasant, I just don't understand why they thought they were getting the in-kind donated. But, and they are, you know, they have no fundraising activities and not a lot of back there this year, so it's been hard, but it's been hard on everybody, I guess, you know, that day. And, you know, family fun day or the pig roast. That's all I have to say for right now, too.
Fence sitters, yes, Councilor Wills.
Yeah, I'm not that shy.
You say what you need to say.
If we charge Morrisburg Waterfront for the use of our equipment, and there has been no talk to the Matilda about donating this $47,3829, and we donated $25,000, to me, it's very plain and simple. You had $10,000, you pay us our $4,700. Because you can't start playing favoritism. I'm sorry, I love the Matilda Recreation Committee to death, but that's the way it is. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. They owe us, so pay us.
Mayor Gardner.
There we go. Okay, I actually take a different approach. I don't consider this organization to be similar to the Morrisburg Waterfront Committee because they are not a committee of council. They are a committee that has a very good track record with their fundraising activities, all of which have been impacted this year. I think, like I said, it's very clear for me because Morrisburg Waterfront Committee does not do fundraising, right? They're a committee of council. They are developing our waterfront plan where this group back there has, like I said, they can prove the impact if they were here, they could say how much have they raised in the last 4 years for the pig roast and for the family fun day. They'd be able to show that there is no way that they're getting that money this year. So I think the one thing about COVID is I think things have to be taken case by case. And I'm absolutely comfortable writing off the $35.68 for us to pay.
Okay. Councilor Wells.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we gotta realize, like, these committees and that, the work they do, but it's still our property, so if the guys aren't using the hi-ho that day or using the dump truck, like, I can't see any issue doing any kind like that. Like I said, it's, all these facilities are ours, whether it's a committee that's with council or a committee it's not. At the end of the day, it's still our property. And I would be in to forgive that $35.68 to myself.
Councilor Knoll.
Yes. The amount of work they do back there and what they've done with that park, and we're trying to bring it back. This is a small step, I think, that we can take to help them. I would I don't even think it's called eating the 3568 because Councilor Wells is right. Like, I mean, that in-kind is always a little tricky, and I know it's gotta be accounted for, but I think we can find 3568.
Okay. Council donations, we haven't done that too much out of that account this year.
Correct.
Okay. We can use that. Okay. Council's making decisions, so that's our little baby to spend, so I think that would be a fair place for it to come out. I guess my comments on it is, I know the group works hard. The however in this is that, you know, they claim they had the money to do it, the $10,000, and then all of a sudden they don't, and that bothers me. So I think it doesn't matter whether it's them or South Williamsburg Rec or North Williamsburg Rec, if they want to do things with the municipality, we need to be all on the same page when the site starts and finishes. And I'm still in the ballpark that nothing runs for nothing, so our time, our machinery, all has to be expensed at a proper, fair level, so I can concur on council on this time, but I do not think this is I don't want to set a precedent for this one. They do have money that no other recreation group in South Dundas gets, which is the EDP money, South Branch Wind Farm money. They need to keep that in mind when they're doing their projects too. They can do things that go over and beyond any other recreation groups, and the rest all have to do it themselves. So, not trying to make them feel guilty or anything. I just want to make sure that everybody's accountable in the whole process. So, motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councilor Wells, that the council of the municipality of South Dundas authorize the donation of labor and equipment costs to the Matilda Recreation Committee in the amount of $4,738.29 for the installation of the ball diamond lights.
Anything further? Seeing none, I'll hear the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now Jamie. That's all right. This is important. It's great that we got the money. However, there's, you know, it was this council was given a last second decision to make, whenever it was, February or March or whatever. I hate to say no to the money, but we still got to spend our money, and we did commit $20,000 of unbudgeted money at that time on the gamble that it would win or lose. So it's one. Now we need to see a good concrete plan of what has to be done, how all the funding's going to go down.
Right.
So he's in your court. Let us know.
So with the Marco clay, for the in-kind services, if we have our public works staff step in and do the excavation of the infield and the warning track, we would save $10,000 off the quote. So that would be, the original quote was $35,000 to do the infield. It would drop it down to $24,480 if we do our in-kind services for that.
Yeah, we need more meat than that.
Yeah. So what, originally their application back in February did have the municipality committed for $20,000. That application was sent in before we were actually given the actual plan and the project. At that time, council did indicate that if they were successful, at that time we bring it back to council to have a discussion on, are we going to contribute financially, are we going to do it in kind, are we going to do a combination of the two? So originally their project to do the full entire rehab work is about $128,000. We did meet with the Seaway Surge last week, great, Deputy Mayor, and Jamie as well too, to discuss their plan moving forward. We realize that, you know, we're in September already, so not all the work can get done at this time. So they did indicate that they wanted to do kind of in phases, in mind that they would have to donate or do some fundraising to in the community to get some additional funds, because with the J's Care, as council knows, at $44,000, less than 128, there's still a big chunk of money left to be fundraised. So their commitment for this year is they want to proceed with, I think, three pieces of the project, which equals to about $85,000. $44,000, as indicated, would come from the J's Care. They would look for the municipality to do either any in-kind or a combination of financial, which would reduce the cost from the contractor to do the work. As well, they've committed to, I believe, $10,000 as well from their fund, and then they would look at doing some fundraising as well too. So I believe the phase one would be rebuild the infield, extend the backstop height, and install dugout roofs, which is estimated to cost around $85,000. So that's their first piece that they would like to complete this year. And then they would look at doing some more work next year. We did have a discussion on the dollar for dollar, whether that was an opportunity for them next year to do the remaining piece. We did say that would be contingent on the 2021 budget, if that money was available, and they would have to fundraise the other 50% matching program. So that's kind of where we're at right now. As I said, the first part is the agreement, whether we approve that, and then second is kind of how we want to move forward. The other thing which we're saving on too as well with the agreement, because we're the owners, there's an HST component that they're saving of 86% too. So there's some additional savings on that, but more of kind of what council wants to put forward as part of this project. So that's kind of a little bit more information.
Okay, so what direction do you need from council tonight? Where on the $20,000 and other in-kind?
Correct, yeah, so,
okay.
Yeah, so they're looking is what the municipality is committing on putting forward towards this project, whether it's said it's in-kind only, is it a combination of in-kind and financial, and as Jamie indicated, he did reach out to Marco, who is the contractor doing this. If we do some of the in-kind, which is the infield work and removal of what's currently there, because their plan is to use that stone or whatever it's there for the phase 2 or 3 down the road, which will be when we take the small field and move it over, that material can be used on the other field. So it'd be basically storing it, whether it's at Morrisburg garage or something for now, but that work will all reduce the cost of what the $85,000 would be to do phase 1.
Okay. Question for Director of Transportation, you have time to do any work this fall?
We'll make time.
Okay. So, I hate to start this discussion off, but I must, because it's something in my mind that is a little challenging. We committed $20,000. I don't really have a problem with that per se. I know we're not budgeted. I can certainly live with some in-kind work to save dollars. That makes logical sense from my point of view too. It still costs money, but as long as that's all accounted for. However, I will be challenged by paying more money. If they come next year for dollar for dollar, I'm going to say no. And the reason is we've already put our $25,000 into this project. They're the ones that want the project. We don't need it. It'd be a great addition. I'm not saying it won't be, but it was their idea, and now all of a sudden it becomes our problem, minus the $44,000. So my challenge back to them is, we got the 20, we'll probably move 10,000 in kind. I would not be in favor of another 25 grand next year, even if they find another 25 from the community. That's, I think that would be spending a lot of money on one baseball diamond in South Dundas, and it would be a fantastic baseball diamond, but that's a lot of municipal dollars for a project that all of a sudden just came out of nowhere. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I'll start with council.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you saying 20,000 cash and 10,000 in kind? Like, is that?
I'm just speculating.
Okay, but that would be like the ballpark?
Well, we committed 20.
Yeah.
I know the treasurer's cringing, but, you know, I can just say, well, we'll find it next year, because we'll figure out something. The in-kind is never free, so, you know, if it costs, you know, to do all that excavating, how much does it cost to do the parking lot, just work from us?
I can't tell you the dollar amounts, but I can tell you it took us a full week with 7 staff members down there.
Treasury has the,
It's just over 11 grand.
Okay, so there you go. So a week's worth of work is 10 grand easy. And that's no extra money, like, that's no stone or nothing in that, so.
Yeah. I agree with you, if it's gonna be a money pit before anybody gets going. Having said that, those diamonds are part of the formalized waterfront plan, my understanding, maybe not the Blue Jays version of the diamond, but we are, there are upgrading diamonds has been part of the plan. So it's fabulous that we got the funding. I think it's interesting, I think we almost need to, moving forward, almost need a formula where, you know, the dollar amount that we're willing to put in and then what the formula is to put the in-kind contribution, because, you know, maybe the formula is $20,000 in cash and $20,000 in in-kind and that's it, kind of thing. You know, you're matching it and that's what the, you know, some, like a formula like that. So when we're working with organizations, they kind of know. That meeting, you know, there's a lot of enthusiasm there. They definitely don't want to wait. So the good thing is they're not talking years and years of doing this project. They want to roll it out fairly quickly. So I imagine we would know pretty quickly what their requirements are. I think we need maybe a commitment from the Surge in writing what their contribution will be as far as the fundraising and that type of thing, because we really don't have what they're formally what they're going to do, right? They basically gotten the grant, we've supported the grant and we'll put some money in-kind contribution, but we actually don't know what, you know, we need a formal agreement where they're saying we're gonna fundraise X number of dollars. So I'm okay with giving something. I absolutely agree with you though, this can't be an ongoing thing. We have more things to focus on besides just the baseball diamond. We've got other things that need to be completed. So I support the project, but I definitely would like a firm timeline and firm contribution, and I am okay with the 2020, $20,000 in in-kind and $20,000 in cash, because I think that's fair to get it moving. But to the mayor's point, you know, this can't be an ongoing, as you like to say, piggy bank situation. So, but we do need to know for sure what the Surge thinks they can raise.
I think a little different than Deputy Mayor Gardner.
That's good.
We had that discussion of $20,000, which we all agreed to. To me, if it's $11,000 in kind, then guess what? You end up with $9,000. I'm not about to turn off that 20,000. I don't want to go anymore. Yes, we'd like to see an upgrade of the ball diamond, but we committed 20,000, not 20 and 20. We committed 20,000 at the end of the day. So whatever you use in kind, then the rest is cash. I want to stay at that $20,000 because we have other projects that we can be working on, and most likely more important than the ball diamond. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
No.
Well, I'm sort of in between. I sort of resent the fact that we're being put in this position because, you know, okay, the 20,000 fine, but now, you know, they've got the grant. Give them all the credit in the world. I wish we could find more organizations that get those type of grants and, you know, we could access that type of funding, but now, you know, they got that funding and now the extra costs are going to come back onto us. So we got to say, whoa, enough is enough. An irrigated ball field. How lovely. I don't think so. I mean, the Surge are doing a great thing. They brought baseball back, but let's just take some small steps here. I'd go 10,000 in kind and that would be max. If you don't like 10,000, then here's a 20, but we're being put into a position that you know, 128,000 here, before the grants income, you know, it was estimated 128,000, come on, I mean, we got other ball diamonds, other rec facilities and stuff that we, you know, no. The 20,000, and I would max it out at 10 for the in-kind, and they can utilize, work around it. Jeff couldn't figure out how many hours they get with men or backhoes or trucks or whatever. You know, it's, there need to be a little better communication here. I realized they put the application through us, and that was, you know, that's okay. But we needed a game plan here of where this was gonna go with, you know, I don't think, I never envisioned much more, you know, other than the 20,000, and it looks like, you know, and that was very informal discussion. I think they took that and ran a little bit too much with it. And maybe made some assumptions they shouldn't, but, the 20,000, you know, there was some discussion in that part, but the in-kind, I'm at 10.
Council Wells?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't know about the 20,000 or any of this. Obviously, I was gone, so I didn't hear any of that discussion. It sounds like it wasn't much of a discussion where you're talking.
It was a last minute delegation that council was asked to do this to support their application. So that's why you're hearing some challenges from us, because it literally was a last minute ask that we had to commit 20 grand of our budget money to, so the application would go forward. And that was all we committed that night, nothing further.
There was nothing said if they got the grant that, how do they come up with 128,000, James?
Just with the, with all, that's their project for, not just this year, like for their vision for this.
For the vision overall.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, like I said, I wasn't involved in this, but if we committed 20,000, which I would have thought maybe twice about myself, we can take the example about the splash pad. That probably took 5 to 6 years to get done because it was no help to council at all at the time. It was all done through donations. And so I'm good with sticking, I'm kind of with Councilor Lewis, 20,000, whether it's incline, it's 20,000, which we can't back down. You guys already approved it. So I would be for the 20,000 and go from there and see their game plan and what goes on from that. Because like right now, as we all know, we have a lot more stuff on our plate than just worrying about ball diamond, which can be actually used. Irrigation, I think we get enough rainfall here. We don't have to worry about it. This year was a little different, but I say stick with the 20,000 that council committed and go from there.
Anything further? You're still at your 2020?
No, I mean, the reason why I say 2020 is because I like to have upfront plans instead of drawing this out. So I think if you come in with something that it's a multi-year plan and you're talking 20,000 is our cap for in-kind services, then it's a lot more upfront and firm, because we can say 10 for next year and then it's 10 the year after, and my thought process would be 2020 for the whole project.
Okay. You're still where you are?
I'm still where I am.
Council Mellon?
No, I'm saying what it was. When did this, well, maybe a question. When does this secondary application, it has to be in by this January 31st, right?
So the initial application went in
Back in
October of
July.
last year. We got wind of it in late January that they made the second phase, and that's why they needed a letter of support from the municipality. And that was due January 31st. That's when they came to council. They did a presentation to council of the seaway surge and baseball numbers and all that stuff. That's where we had that discussion as far as we would say, we indicated is that once, if we got the approval, we would come back to council and have discussion as far as what our contribution would be.
The 20,010 in kind is where I am. I won't go any higher than that.
And what's the waterfront committee, did they have any discussions of using their funding for
No,
any of this?
the meeting came after, but I just have a quick question, what does a ball diamond cost to make? Like if we were gonna, if we had to upgrade a ball, like what would it cost us?
Apparently a lot.
No, but
Well,
this,
if I look at just the Marco, which is, I think, just the infield, it's $75,000.
yeah, because I mean, when we're having the conversation, we're looking and yes, 20,000 unbudgeted seems high, and if we did say 10 in kind or 20 in kind, that's $40,000 all in kind, all included for us to get a baseball diamond that normally, and it's supposed to be an elevated one, right? But a regular one would run us, it sounds probably like about 75,
75 plus.
80,000. So I just, that's part of my thought process.
We have a regular one. We don't need to spend any money on it.
Well, I'm just
I don't like baseball, but it looks a little rough.
Well, I don't know, we got to use the other last weekend, and I've seen a lot of people there, so it is a usable diamond. What do you see as faults in that diamond right now?
Fencing is a big,
Well, I can agree with fencing 100%, yeah.
but the infield is good, the outfield is, needs upgrading too, but other than that, the infield can be rough in certain spots, but we maintain it, our staff does a really good job with dragging it and making sure it's safe for everybody, but this quote from Marco, this is an elevated, like, if you're making a diamond, it wouldn't be this. This is a grass infield, this is different.
Yeah, this is, it'll look spectacular when it's done, but we as the council would not have done that,
Yeah.
so.
But that's what I'm saying, so I'm looking at what we as council would spend, $40,000 for a baseball, right? That's a pretty good deal. If someone came to the table and said you're gonna get essentially a new baseball diamond, just a regular one for 40 grand, that's pretty good. The other thing we did have though, that does involve the Northwood Waterfront Committee, is we did have a discussion, Jamie, about what programming they were gonna bring for the younger residents and what the benefit would bring, and they talked a little bit about their intention to bring in programming associated with the surge, and what's it called?
Well, the
Jamie?
rally cap program,
Yeah, the
about
rally
COVID
cap.
hit and then after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so there was some talk about it won't just be the elite baseball, because that was my concern. That's fine to have a baseball diamond that only certain people use, I have an issue with that. But I was pretty comfortable with our conversation about the fact that they were bringing in the Rally Cap
Yeah.
program, which was.
For the locals, yeah.
Yeah, for the local youth, which was a pretty aggressive, really formatted, proven program where our youngsters could be taught how to play baseball properly. So I think that was the other thing I forgot to mention, where, because I had the same concerns, but in that discussion, just the bringing in the elevated junior
Yes.
programming was definitely a bonus. So you would have young kids that would be exposed to that area.
It's more elevated than the league is,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Okay. I can live with 20 and 10 in kind, that's it. I think that level I can, I still, it's one of those challenges we have as a council and as a municipality, because, groups come to us and they have their dreams, they have their needs. They tell us what they need, we commit to it. And all of a sudden, we have to commit more. And remember the splash pad, I was on council when that whole dream started. In fact, I had real good discussions with the two main drivers, Mike Domenko and Matt McCooey. That was certainly a community-driven project. So Dundas did put 25 grand into it. We probably did in-kind services, that was done after I was off council, and then we did the addition of the washroom, but that was a necessity, no matter if you had that there or not, so that was a great addition to that part. However, here we're stuck in a situation that too much guessing, not enough thought was put into it. We all have dreams, and we make sure that they're budgeted well and thought out well. So I don't have an issue with the 20, we committed to that. The 10, I think we can do because we're gonna save dollars because of, instead of bringing equipment in. And I fully appreciate that our staff's time has to be budgeted properly. It's the right thing to do. It's nothing worse than just assuming that's free. Nothing's free in any situation. It still costs money, so that's where I'm sitting. So, I'm gonna ask the clerk to write up a motion in that regard, and then we can debate it further.
Yes,
Yeah,
one question.
you can.
Did we want to wait until you had the firm timeline from Surge and the costs before you made a commitment?
Well,
Or do they need to have that today?
No.
So you have the firm cost from in regards to Marco and the irrigation and
We have the quotes from that.
yeah, we have all the quotes for that. It just is how much do we want to do in kind that we can reduce some of those costs.
well, I think they need to go back, look at the project, now they're told this is all you get. And, you know, as Council Well said, you know, you need to have an irrigated field, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, all these things cost money, and not only do they cost money initially, they cost money to maintain. That's, you know, we never even talked about maintenance, so that, you know, that maintenance cost is gonna be, got mold, you know, mold the infield, there's a lot more to it. So, I think we as a municipality will end up committing to that. That's not the end of the world. We do that all the time, but that's where I'm sitting. 20 and 10, and don't come back for any more. If you need more, you're going to have to, you know, you committed to fundraising, you know, you're going to have to do some fundraising to come up with your side of the ledger. And I think we don't need a fancy vault. It's a nice to have, it's not a have to have. You know, and then, you know, if we commit over to this, then somebody else is gonna say, well, I want my ball diamond approved, they want to do this, they want to do that, and like, there's, careful of how you go down roads sometimes.
Or should the road some days.
So where are you now?
I'm good with 2010.
You're still where you are?
2010.
Doesn't really matter what I do.
Well, it is democracy, I know that, and we're not gonna all agree on this, it's a challenge, you know, you can
Like I
say
said,
that you are where you are, and I don't
I'll
disagree
give
with
my
you.
own opinion because I wasn't here when we first started, so it looks like it's gonna be 2010 and it is what it is, I guess, so. I would have been, one comment about giving money away that's not in the budget, like, I think, you should have taught me a little more about that, but it's done and over with, so. I guess it's gonna be 2010.
I will go 2010, but don't come back.
Well, I think I've said that myself, I think that.
I will vote no.
Yeah. So, you have a motion?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Council Mellon, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas authorize $20,000 in funding and $10,000 in-kind donation toward the Jays Care Foundation project.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Yeah, we gotta do the bylaw now. So bylaw is 2020-73, Jays Care Foundation, go ahead.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2020-73 being a bylaw to execute an agreement with the Jays Care Foundation for the renovation of the infield at Earl Baker Park be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Any further? All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Out of order on that. Matilda Monument Project discussion. We have a letter from the chair of the committee, Eric Duncan, concerning putting in a bench. So do you want to go further on that, please?
So Eric Duncan did reach out to staff, and I believe Councillor Mel as well too, in regards to, I believe there's one last piece of that project, which is a bench that they're looking at acquiring. He did reach out to the township of North Dundas that do have an extra bench at a price of $1,600 plus HST, and he's looking to see if council would be interested in purchasing that as to finish off the project, or if we want to go back to the South Branch Community Fund to see if they would like to pay that, because originally there was money allocated from the South Branch, which we didn't spend any of it.
They approved $10,000, and then it was $4,500 came from the South Branch, so there's money remaining.
So there's some money left, so whether we want, I don't know when South Branch is meeting, that's I guess the other issue too.
It was discussed, and it was, this bench was sort of included, I guess, right from the get-go as the finishing touch. I reached out to Mr. Duncan today. I never got back to him. He never got back to me though. I didn't get to this portion of the agenda until this morning. So, yeah, I mean, they wanted to do this from the start, to finish off in between the two flagpoles at the front door there. There is money available from the EDP allocation. All the other money has been utilized. Unfortunately, we haven't met with, like the EDP Community Fund haven't met to formally, approve. There was some preliminary discussions back before COVID hit in regards to this, but I can't really speak on, the committee hasn't had a chance to say yea or nay, that utilize the unused portion. I would hope they would. I personally think that money should come, the allocation of the 10,000, wasn't all used. They sort of wanted that money to be sort of the last. And I think that if the money's there, hopefully that, it'd be a whole lot nicer if I could sit here and say the committee has met and said, yes, that money could be allocated towards these benches. So I can't shed a lot of light on this because I never got back, and I never was able to get hold of Eric today, and that committee has not met to formally say yea or no to furthering the project with allocating the road. There's how much, they've used 4,500? So there's 5,500 left, thank you.
Yeah, and this wasn't part of the original application, that's why it needs to go back to South Branch, right?
This was sort of an afterthought,
Correct.
if you will. The original application didn't include this, and then, as the project progressed, everybody thought, well, that'd be nice to put there. So, to finish the project off. So, how you go about utilizing this, I'm not sure. Whether we buy the bench, hopefully get the money back from the EDP fund, from that committee, if they'll reimburse us. Chance they say no. I got a feeling I'm not going to go down that road, so, it would have been a lot easier if we could have had a meeting with that EDP committee. I think the bench is needed, and I like, that was the whole idea, of having that bench there as to finish the project off, so.
Go ahead.
I don't really have a lot to say about it. If, as far as like South Branch, if they were gonna donate 10,000 at the beginning and there's 5,500, I can't see why we can't reach out to them and they pay for the 1,675. should wait just to hear from South Branch. And EPD money, I don't think you can actually spend that on the bench. It has to be spent on something to do with recreation, don't it? If I correct.
It has to be spent within a catchment area that's under, which the Matilda Hall would be within that catchment area. We did get approval, I think, when we reached out to South Branch, and they were okay with the cost.
Dixon's is the very edge.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be recreation, no.
Okay. That's what I would do then.
I'm kind of thinking the same way Councillor Wells is. If South Nation said that they would buy the bench, approach them and see where they're going. And I guess if not, I guess we're stuck with it. $1,600, not really a lot of money. But I would approach South Nation first.
South Branch.
To see if they are going to come through with their agreement. Because I think it would look as a finishing touch there.
I look at everything a little differently. I think the bench would be a great addition. I think that South Branch will cover it. My only query, and it's only because I spend a lot of time at tables now talking about branding and South Dundas stuff, having a North Dundas bench style in South Dundas seems kind of counterproductive whenever we're talking about designing and styling and wanting to include our rural neighbors in when we talk about streetscape and how much time and effort is being put into bench selection and the waterfront and stuff like that. It sounds nitpicky and it's not meant to be. It's just if it's a South Dundas and the bigger picture of including all of South Dundas when we're inviting people to go to memorials and that type of thing, I just would like South Dundas style bench.
If there's money that the South Branch Fund didn't spend on this project that they committed 10 grand to, I think they could find the dollars to do that. That would be my first avenue. I think that's more than fair for this project. It's been a year that nobody spent any South Branch funds, correct? Because they haven't had a meeting, so there's another 30 grand they got to sit there anyway. So I think that's where the funding should come from, for sure. Not sure about time. I understand your point, but I think the committee wants this bench, then I'm gonna live with this bench out in Dixon's Corners and go from there. So, but funding wise, I think South Branch should pay for it if they didn't spend all their 10 grand.
So what I can do is I can reach out to Janice first, so I'll CC you, Councillor Mellon, on it, and make the request to them and see if maybe they can meet sooner than later.
From Eric or the chair?
I'll reach out to Janice from the South
Yeah.
Branch and CC yourself and see if they'd be willing to look at approving this.
Yeah, Madam
May I
Clerk.
ask a question?
Maybe.
Our bench policy, did it have bench styles in it?
I think it did, I don't know if it did have it, or just for the two waterfronts. I'll look into that a little further too,
Okay.
see what that bench policy is.
Okay, we'll look into the bench policy and see what benches we use. Make that very please. She does bring a valid point, there is a valid point. These benches look great in Sweet Corner Park in downtown Winchester, or if they're used at the waterfront park in Chesterville, that's fair enough, but we have kind of a style that's ours, that'd be nice to use ours. Not sure I would put our blue bench there. I think it needs to be black because of where it is, because that would just draw away from what it's supposed to be. But
I'm not a fan of the black.
So our policy is for memorial bench policy.
Okay.
For a resident in memory of a loved one, a resident who is deceased.
anyway, we have council direction, we'll figure something out. Okay. So next discussion item is the lawn bowling. At the last council meeting, when might have been lined up for. Council allowed the Long Bowling Club and their project to put up lights through a donation from John Ross. The project did get started before we approved that, but we also suggested that they start seeking their own way, more or less, from the municipality and run their club as a club and look after their own needs. However, one of their biggest challenges will be the electrical feed to to their new lighting standard. The feed from the forward house is, well, I'm going to allow Danielle to mention that. I was part of the discussion when we had our meeting down there. It was a very cordial meeting till discussion got off track, and then things got a little offhand. But vis-a-vis the Lawn Bowling Club, I think it was good. However, there's a contribution from us as a municipality to deal with the connection, and it seemed like a good solution at the time, but the council has to approve it. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as Mayor alluded to, the Lawn Bowling Club, it does require a new electrical service for the new lighting that they are putting in at the Lawn Bowling Club, specifically because the existing electrical comes from the forward house basement, and the contact that's in the basement at the forward house is rusted out. So when we connect the new lights to it, the ESA may or may not approve that box because it is so corroded from being in the basement. So we did have a meeting with RSL as well as ATEL Air to look at how we would connect the existing service to the Lawn Bowling Club, or if we would have to do something different. So what we came up with at the meeting that we held with the Lawn Bowling Club and ATEL Air and RSL is that we would run a line from the existing pole. We would run it underground. We would utilize municipal workers to dig a trench from the forward house pole all the way to the Lawn Bowling Club. We would install a conduit in that space, and we would run a line, RSL would run the line from the pole to the Lawn Bowling Club. The Lawn Bowling Club would then be responsible for installing a panel, an electrical panel inside of the Lawn Bowling Club. And then they would be responsible for a meter as well. So they would be responsible for paying for their own hydro bill, separate from the municipality. So I guess we're just looking for approval if that's something council wants to do. In total, we're hoping the cost doesn't run over $3,000. We do have some funds in the existing Lawn Bowling Club capital that we could utilize towards that.
Lawn Bowling capital that was alluded to is they had asked for a gate in their current fence structure. However, John Ross is donating the gate structure, so that money is not needed for that project any longer. However, I thought this would be a reasonable solution to their dilemma, and when I brought up the idea that, you know, because they felt challenged that we were cutting them off the municipality a bit, and I said, you know, if they get the lights in and they, you know, they utilize the new club, the new building when it gets going and stuff like that, they could flourish as much as the Iroquois Golf Club did when we cut the cord there. And I think that it seemed to spark a switch. So once they get the meter in, there are costs, but they're reasonable costs. And I think if they have one or two new members, they have that cost made up. But the cost of running the conduit to their new meter base, and they would pay for the meter base. Basically, we would pay for, well, RSL pays 30 meters of cable and the rest is ours. So yes, it would cost $3,000 or so to do that. Out of that capital fund we already have. So it's budgeted for something, but we still end up paying for it. If we don't do this, then we'll have to figure out another way of running power there. I know there's a suggestion of running from the new campground building, but you still got to run new wire there. They want 100 amp service. It's still going to be just as much to run from one or the other. Or Forward House Committee had talked to all council, and they were concerned about the power going there, so that gives us an opportunity to cut that off, and they'll be on their own. You know, Forward House is its own separate issue, and we'll deal with that whenever that plan comes to council, so. That's where we came up with as a plan. They seem to be happy with that, if we go ahead and do that, so I'll start here.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of issues with the lawn bowling. One, as a municipality, not willing to pay the whole shot. I think we should put the power in. Two, whatever it takes to get new power there. The municipality saved thousands of dollars from the generosity of John Ross, which, like, he's doing everything there. And we're worrying about a meter base with basically lawn bowling is senior citizens. We're talking senior citizens, that's the only thing they got. They don't have the rink to go, well, they can't skate, I mean, ball diamonds and that. This is just, it's nothing like the golf course either. Like, I think everything as far as the power getting to them, they take care of all their own maintenance, it doesn't cost us nothing there, and we're nickel and diming over a meter base. So my suggestion to this council is we pay the shot, get it to there, and pay their hydro, which they use lights maybe 3 times a year. So if we want to sit here and take away from seniors, go for it, but I won't go for it. That's mine.
Councilor Mellon?
Well, how much more would it be for us to pick up the whole shop? The box or whatever that they have to be wired in? They were talking about doing that. Our cost was going to be the cable over, right?
Okay, so John Ross is paying everything else. Keep that in mind, they're not. John Ross was extremely happy that we're bringing the power to the box, to the meter base. He was good with everything else. The discussion of who pays for the power, that's a kind of be a separate issue, but to be honest, Ron Beaupre didn't have an issue with it in the end, once we, had that good discussion with him. So, but John was happy paying everything else. And we're not taking any money out of anybody else's pocket. John was good with what we were put on the table that day. Correct, Danielle?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
To answer your question, if with the municipality were to pay for that additional service, we did get that pricing from ATEL Air, and it's another $2,500 to $3,000 to install the panel itself.
For a meter base and a 100 amp panel.
That's correct.
I think we better go for a couple more quotes if they're coming in 2,500, as far as I'm concerned.
John's paying for that. So it's not, our concern is getting the power to what he needs to do the work.
I would put the power to them if the lawn bowlers are happy with it and John is fine with it. Go ahead and put the power over to them.
I agree that we should be running the power over to them. We don't give the lawn bowling a lot of money during budget time. I really don't even have an issue with paying for their hydro. Like, the seniors up there, they don't ask for a lot. And we have a lot of seniors. So I think we should run the power and pick up the hydro bill. That's how I feel.
Well, I have no problem. I like solutions where people are happy. So the $3,000, I have no problem with the running it. As far as the seniors in that particular area, we have given $350,000 towards a building where the average age that's going to use it is probably over 65, I would imagine. So I don't feel that we're misusing anybody. They're going to have a beautiful building and a place to have, I've heard the Long Bowling Club talk about potluck suppers and stuff like that. Thanks to Mr. Ross's generosity, we worked together, they've got a bang-up building to have all that stuff. So I don't think we're nickel and diming, I don't think we're taking away. Like I said, I'm pretty sure if we counted, the average age would be in the senior that will use that building. And I'm okay with the solution that you've come up with $3,000 for the line.
Okay, question I'll add to it is, or do you want South Dundas to continue paying for the electricity that you use?
Is that the precedent we've set? Are we
We have-
now asking
We
them
are
to pay
paying,
when
we are
pay it?
paying it through the forward house currently. And it's
we-
costing us, on average, electricity on its own $40 to $50 a month.
And we've always paid it?
We've always paid it.
Then I would not penalize them, I would continue to pay it.
So council would be good for putting the cable in, and we'll continue paying for the power. John is paying for the rest, so I'm not gonna argue with John.
Well, if John's covering the cost, that it's not coming out of the lawn bowlers, whatever reserve they have, which I'm pretty sure, well, I know it's not very big, so. As long as it's no cost to them, I'm good with everything else.
Okay, so currently we have 3,000 allocated, so we'll use that. That includes the in-kind work that our men will be doing too, so. Okay, so you don't need a motion for that, correct? Yeah,
We do.
okay. You have it ready?
No, I've been mulling it over.
Okay, you mull it over, we'll move on. As council has been aware, cannabis operations are starting to spring up in South Dundas on a fairly regular rate, it seems. Some a little bit more legal than others. I'm sure there's some out there that have just put up the tent and we'll do what we want to do until we get caught. However, there are concerns, as council has seen in letters of recent times, and other concerns I'm sure we've heard about, that there's issues with them. As much as it's an agricultural crop, it can cause issues mainly with odor. I know if you drive by, even the ones that are outside on certain winds, you'll certainly smell them. The ones that we know of, I haven't heard of the other ones yet. Other municipalities are now starting to regulate by the zoning where these places can go. We have nothing right now, except that it have to be in an ag zone or an industrial zone or whatever. I think it's high time that South Dundas direct staff to come up with a zoning plan to present to council that we could debate. North Glen has done it. They did that in their June 3rd meeting. If you want to go online and look at that agenda, I believe that it's not bad. I think the distances could actually be better. But I'm not saying no to them. I'm just saying they have to be in the right spot. Even that one that's at the one that everybody knows about, Rowena and Shaver Road. They haven't got property to put that farther back and not cause as much issues as they had. So, and I'm willing to look at whatever we can do to even deal with the current ones. I know it's not as easy, but some of them will be out of operation here shortly, so sometimes holes in way things get done are opportunities. But I know there's one at the old Illinois plant that you could smell on the right day, so I imagine there's certainly people that live around there that have concerns. We've allowed other, production facilities to purchase land from us. So, and I know that there's been others out there that have actually thought that the mayor could change the zoning for them, and I just kindly informed them that there's a public process and that's the way the world works. But we have nothing to regulate what we've got, and I think it's time that we figure something out before it gets to the point that we wish we had done a lot more a lot sooner. So comments? Go ahead.
Sure. So I've done a little bit of research on this. It's a difficult situation in that if it's done correctly, it can be beneficial for a municipality, and if it's not done correctly, it can be a huge headache for our residents. I have a couple of questions for Nicole.
Go ahead.
If that's okay. Nicole, so when you get a call about one of these places, like as an area that has this, do you directly involve the OPP as far as registering it with them that it's there?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we do involve the OPP. There's a certain division
Yes.
in our area that investigates the cannabis operations to make sure that they are legal.
Yeah.
So the operations are required to have licensing, and they have to keep those licenses posted on site.
Yeah.
If they find out that they are not licensed, they do investigations and then prosecutions on their end.
Yeah. Yeah, which we would never know, right, because of confidentiality reasons. So it seems to be that people are assuming because the product is legal that there is not still that underground market, and there's very much that underground market. So that's great to hear that we involve the OPP on any call with that, so they're well aware. It's tricky. I would welcome a further discussion. I think we need to have some bylaws in place to have a little bit more teeth. It'll be hard though, because if you run into an illegal grow up, then that's going to be dicey as far as involving the staff and you know, putting our folks at risk as far as, you know, what we can and cannot do. But I think we have to do something. I think we should probably have a fairly robust conversation, and if we're able to, you know, open it up for public comment, I think that would be good. But I'm thrilled to hear that they're at least screened as far as the legal and illegal aspects of what's going on, because how would you know, right?
Right.
So.
It would be a public process because it would change the zoning bylaw.
Perfect.
Council Lewis?
I believe that we should be doing something also because these grow-ups, they seem to be popping up all over the place. I know of 3 myself. And you are right, Mr. Mayor, whenever you said when the wind's in the right direction, it will travel for many miles. Because I was on the road last week and I would most likely say about 1.5 kilometers. I could smell it. But I think it's time that as council we should do something along with staff. Because if we don't, I don't think it's going to stop. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Council Mallon?
Well, thank goodness the federal government decided to legalize marijuana, and all they did was download a problem onto us. They've just found a way to circumnavigate their way around what was supposed to be, I guess, the intent of this from the start. If you don't go by Smith Falls or Lockford Station Furniture, you know, the legally grow producing places, it's locked up like Fort Knox. These shady outfits, as far as I'm concerned, I personally don't even think we need them in South Dundas. That type of, you know, they're sitting right on a road. A 2-year-old with a dull X-Acto knife can get in there. Like, this is ridiculous. I mean, if they're going to allow them, there should be at least the stringent requirements and nutrient management they have for manure storage and lagoons and new cattle facilities or hog facilities. This is ridiculous. They have no business being anywhere near residential housing or residential properties. Put it back in the middle of the back 40s if you want her, but I don't think I think this is just more trouble than what is anywhere going to be near worth, because they found a loophole and they're taking advantage of it. You know, these people can grow this product for you if you sign over a letter. There was a raid back near Winchester where there was a lot more plants in there than they had permission to grow, and the OPP were almost hamstrung. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't do much. I don't even know if there was any charges laid against that. All they did was compensate the extra plants. Well, You know, this, to me, unfortunately, I think that's caused a lot of municipalities, townships, you know, similar to ourselves, you know, didn't see this coming, and we get stuck cleaning up the mess of making it legal to grow this stuff. So thanks, I don't know who's gonna smoke all this stuff, because there's gonna be a lot of happy people. And I think the one thing we're gonna have to be very aware of is, you know, the OPP, but also the fire. If there's a fire, and we gotta know where these facilities are, and if we don't know where the facilities are, well, firemen are gonna have, you know, it's a very tricky situation if you're going into an enclosed structure. I guess if you have greenhouses out in the middle of nowhere, I guess you sit back and let it burn, but I mean, if you're going into a structure, I think our fire department should be more than aware, and I don't know how you handle these situations, but to me, there's a real situation with the fire and fire department and how that could be handled. I'm done. You know,
Yeah, I think what we need to do is definitely have the public have a meeting to see what they want to do, because as far as I'm concerned, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if none of them were here, because that one in Rowena or the one up there, like I started a job today at Federally's there in the corner of Flag Road, and like that south wind there today, that's, I mean, you could, it was strong, like really strong. And I think the provincial or federal government should all, like, if there's license and how much you can grow, we should have full access to it as far as municipality goes, to tell people, like, every one of us here have lots of calls on this, and we don't really have answers for them because we don't know, but we should know. And whether it's to reach out to our MP or MPP to get some kind of, someone to be accountable to show us that they're licensed for it. I think our job as a municipality is to set a bylaw after the public input to say, okay, we'll treat this like a pig farm. It's got to be a quarter mile off the road, or we're going to have a half mile off the road. That's up to us as council to do that, which we can change. This year it's not going to come into effect because they'll be harvesting there like shortly. So for next year, I think during the winter we get this in place, that we, after a public inquiry about it, a meeting, and go from there, and hopefully you guys as staff can reach out to members of the government here to see, show us licenses, what their like quota is and stuff like that, or make sure like we're they're all, they got their building permits for 30 some, like they could have put up 100, I guess, if they zone ag. So that's where we come into play to put a stop to that and go from there.
Okay, so I'll mention some of the stuff we have done. This is all regulated by Health Canada. That they are the legal authority in how cannabis operations operate and what they're supposed to do. From what I read of it, some of our operations aren't even meeting the standard. I did notice that there was a fence going up yesterday. You may not need an exact, you may need more than a dull exacto knife, but not very, you don't need a very sharp side cutter to get through it. Other, like, that technically isn't our bailiwick as much. OPP, I think they probably said, we've been fighting organized crime and cannabis for years, and all of a sudden you made it legal for organized crime to do it, and, you know, it's just other ways around. There was an article in the Better Farming magazine, which is something that OFA through farms.com does to any OFA member, and we got it last a week or so ago. This is now becoming an Ontario-wide issue. The province hasn't really done nothing. Our local MPP, I will give him credit, has done as much as he can from his point of view. He's probably a bit challenged being on the other side of the fence to deal with it directly. Government's probably all saying, well, we got bigger things to deal with besides cannabis operations. People at Health Canada don't want to leave their home office. All these things are just causing issues. So I think, you know, from our point of view, let's direct staff to come up with a preliminary setbacks and rules and regulations that others have already started at work or trying to make work, and let us look at them. It certainly is going to be a public process in the end because we need a public meeting to change our zoning bylaw. It's part of the Planning Act, so at least they'll give us some guidelines. We have to be realistic with setbacks. I think it has to be, you know, something that is still workable because you're right, the nutrient, no, it's not, it's minimum distance separation from farms that'll deal with odors from farms. Rather ironically, Debbie and I went to Smith's Orchards yesterday, pick up some apples, and of course, it's the easiest way, shortest way to get there from my place. Smell of cattle manure was much stronger than the cannabis that day because someone was spreading it right there. So, but anyway, we need to come up with something. And it's not just, you know, and I think Nicole's got enough exposure to some of the issues that we need to deal with, even from more than a setback point of view. North Glengarry's is 70 meters. I don't think that's enough. 150 may not be enough, but they'd be all right in the middle of nowhere, but not where some of them are putting them now. And I know there's more coming. It's just going to be too easy for them to do it, whether it's legal or illegal. Go ahead.
That call that you had me call in for, one thing they did mention, maybe for staff, they had the OPP inspector, so that's why I asked about the OPP, but AMO apparently has quite a file on this now, and they were saying that the municipality should work with AMO because it's going to be, to your point, the united front kind of thing. So apparently they have been collecting information and that type of thing, so I don't know if you've received anything, but maybe reaching out and you know, getting what they have on this issue would not be a bad start.
And another thing, like, if the facility's done right, like I'm sure the plant in Smith Falls has odor control equipment in, or else the whole town of Smith Falls would be pretty ripe all the time. So there are ways to deal with it. You're certainly not going to deal with it in a greenhouse situation. You could deal with it in a facility like the old Ilmar plant if they wanted to, but that all costs money, so, you know, there might be money to be made into it, I'm sure of that, but they're not going to spend any more money than they have to, so.
Well, if it's done right, you'll never smell it. On my commute into Ottawa, the one that I would take the back roads to get to, it's escaping me which road it was.
Ramseyville Road.
Yeah, I never smell it. It was very well done and very secure. Much more than the wire cutters or hacks that I've been in there, so, yeah.
Any further comments from council? Okay, so I think our expectation from staff is that this is an important file that we need to deal with sooner than later. I don't want to wait till winter to deal with this. Because once we start this, then they're going to say, oh, we better hurry up and get our operations up before they can get regulated.
So I have been in discussions with Tim Chatter, our senior planner, so I do expect probably report to council the next meeting.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you. Got a motion for our last discussion, please?
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Mellon, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas authorize the Municipal Transportation Department to dig a trench from the pole to the lawn bowling club building for the electrical service with the allocated budget money of $3,000 and to continue to pay the hazard cost for the electricity consumed.
Anything further? Seeing none, all in the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Okay, no notice of the motion?
No.
Okay, before we read the next motion. I'd like to thank council so far for their input. I'd like to thank staff for their input and allowing us into your building. I think we really had a good meeting this way, and it was much more personal. I'd like to thank Rebecca from the press for being here, and thank the audience for participating. And those that will see us tomorrow, thanks for participating, and hopefully we'll be live streamed next time. Not gonna hold me to that, but we're gonna do our best to do so. And after we get done our closed session, we'll just wrap up with a ratification by law, and that's it. So, okay, go ahead.
Moved by Councilor Mallon, second by Councilor Wells, that the council of the municipality of South Dundas proceed in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, in litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board.
All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. 5-minute recess.